Hey everyone, welcome to Zzzax of Live, episode number 71. I forgot to do the countdown this time. I just jumped right into the theme song. Still getting used to the live
I
video
figured you just
format.
didn't want to do any editing. Like even cutting off the head was too much to ask.
I'll probably still do some. But yeah, we are going to be talking about the first episode of Secret Invasion, which is finally here. Just hit Disney Plus today. If you're listening or watching live, that is the episode recording will be up later today, I think, too. Probably, we'll see. But
Hopefully
yeah,
they're watching live so they can see that great Loki shirt you have on that I
yeah.
also have in my. Not wearing it right now, but I have it and I love it.
I like that you cleared up for the audio listeners that you're not also wearing the Loki shirt.
No, I'm wearing a shirt that no one can see the graphic of because I sit too low.
But you are, as you said to me right before we started recording, you are cosplaying as undercover Steve Rogers walking through the mall.
Yeah, exactly. How without this super soldier serum,
right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that goes for all of us. But I peek behind the curtain for me a little bit here. I like to wear a Marvel shirt that goes with whatever we're talking about. I don't have anything with Skrulls or Nick Fury or anything, so I just figured green. And there you go, Loki shirt.
You didn't have AI generate you a shirt?
No, we are gonna get into that later. Don't worry. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about the premiere episode of Secret Invasion, which is now streaming on Disney Plus. We're gonna have some games later on. How much is that cameo? And a ridiculous draft, as always. But let's get started with some Marvel news, as we like to do. Kyle, it figures the first time I'm ever going to San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel decides they're going to skip Hall H this year.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this coming, but that is, I mean, in a way, it's kind of better for you because you enjoy enough other stuff.
Sure.
It would have been cool if there was. I don't know what they would have announced anyway, so I feel like it's almost better for them to not do it and have you get all hype and wait overnight in line to then just be disappointed by the panel itself, and instead go knowing that you should go spend your time elsewhere.
Yeah, and we'll see. Marvel is going to have a presence there still. They've said that they're going to have a presence on the show floor. Going back a few weeks, Vincent D'Onofrio said, like, don't worry, we'll be there. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some smaller panels, just Q&As with, some of the stars of some shows and things like that.
Or even like a feature on Daredevil itself. So Ballroom 20 is usually like the TV hall, and then Hall H is more movies and other things. So I guess I could see them doing, just because they're not doing a Marvel Studios panel in Hall H, they could even do like a TV thing, but I think that might be Ballroom 20.
Yeah, we could definitely see something like that. So yeah, I'm still looking forward to it. San Diego Comic-Con, July 20th to the 23rd. So we're, less than a month away at this point. So it's right around the corner. But don't expect a whole episode dedicated to just breaking down what Marvel announced at San Diego Comic-Con like we did last year. But hopefully we'll get some news. Speaking of some of the, news relating to Marvel Studios' upcoming projects, we got a change. And I know you were disappointed in the title change for Captain America. No longer New World Order. Now Captain America Brave New World.
Yeah, slight change. Well, what's annoying to me, if I may peel back the curtain just a tiny bit, I hate how they announced that and then still had like hitting theaters May 3rd, whatever date it was. And then like a few days later, then they changed the date. I'm like, couldn't you have done this at one time? Did you not know like 4 days ago that you're going to push back all the release dates?
Right. I mean, maybe they didn't, like maybe they made that decision the next day.
Well, this is not the first time that this has happened.
That's fair. Yeah. All in the game. Pretty good point. Do they really want to be taking questions about Jonathan Majors right now? Probably not. That's a good, fair point right there. Yeah, so you like you mentioned, there's a whole bunch of changes to the schedule coming up as well. A whole bunch of delays, not just to Marvel movies, but to a whole bunch of different Disney movies as well. The first change, and the weirdest one, is that Deadpool actually moved up several months. Was slated for November 8th, 2024, now May 3rd, 2024. So That was one that was well into production by the time the writer's strike came around. So that makes sense that that's not getting delayed while a whole bunch of other projects are. So that explains the move up there. And I'm excited. I'm happy that we're closer to now getting Deadpool 3 and just the addition of Deadpool in the MCU. But I'll go through some of the other delays real quick. Captain America, Brave New World moved from May, that Deadpool date, back to July 2024. Thunderbolts moved from July to December 2024. Blade from September 2024 to February 2025. Fantastic Four from February 2025 to May 2nd. So only a few months on that one. And then the big ones here, Avengers The Kang Dynasty pushed back a full year from May 2nd, 2025 to May 1st, 2026. And Avengers Secret Wars will now be coming out on May 7th, 2027. So we have...
Because we're all going to be alive for
that. I mean, we'll see. Is there another end of the world event like a 2012 situation?
Oh, no, just personally, I don't know. If just feels
wow.
like really far. I mean, Avatar 5, 2031, like, come on.
Yeah, that's really that was another crazy one. Although, I mean, does that surprise us given the first Avatar came out in 2009?
No.
You know, so
we'd be like, what? Okay, so it's 8 years from now, and I'm going to be 45 by the time Avatar 5 comes out.
Man, I don't even want to do that math. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to
shift
gears
than me, so it's not as bad.
Right. All in the game's comment here. I'm going to shift gears off of that. Any idea what the third MCU movie in 2025 will be? We don't have a date for Armor Wars still. They never put it on the schedule, so it's possible that's what that will be. The Don Cheadle-led Iron Man spin-off kind of film that was supposed to be a series, then transitioned to a movie, and again, not on the schedule just yet. So
probably a good move. So maybe this will, live on after its usefulness.
Yeah. We'll see how that schedule plays out. I mean, again, with the writer's strike ongoing, there could be more delays in the future. Hopefully it doesn't last too much longer, but we will see. Speaking of Daredevil Born Again, we talked about it potentially being a Comic-Con, but it is also shut down production or suspended production until the end of the strike. So I would say delayed indefinitely. They haven't moved back the date on it, or the time frame or whatever it is that we have on that. But if it's going to be suspended until the end of the strike, then obviously we don't know when we're going to be seeing that series.
That is how that works. Yeah. Yeah. They kept getting shut down like for a day or two at a time. So they're finally like, all right. We'll
probably makes sense to just, finally tell people, hey, you can take some time off here. We're not going to come back for a little while. There is some good news, which is, all right, we'll start off with some mediocre news, I guess. The Incredible Hulk is now streaming on Disney Plus. You may remember probably a little over, no, I guess it must be more than a year ago at this point, when we drafted the entirety of the MCU. We drafted every film except for one, and the one left out on the waiver wire was the Incredible Hulk. So obviously we were not exactly clamoring for this movie to come to Disney Plus, but it's there now. So if you want to watch it, you can do so. Also, we have our live blog that you can watch, put on some added commentary for that as well.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say now, because when you did that, you watched the entire MCU up to that point. Mm-hmm. Phase 1 and Phase 2 and some other parts of it were missing because we didn't have Spider-Man and we didn't have Incredible Hulk. Now we have a lot of those. We don't have all the Spider-Man yet, but you have a pretty complete collection of the MCU building over there finally.
Yeah, I think just Spider-Man No Way Home and then obviously Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 are the only existing Marvel Cinematic Universe projects that are not on Disney Plus right now. Speaking of additions to Disney Plus, did you happen to get a chance to watch the new Stan Lee documentary?
I did not. I thought you were going to ask if I got a chance to see the Quantumania Assembled, which was supposed to come out, and as far as I've seen, has not, unless it happened today.
I have not seen that either, so...
It was supposed to come out last week, and so I sat down on Saturday morning with my cup of coffee. I'm like, let's watch that, and then couldn't find it, and Classic Disney Plus.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see that debut on just like a random Tuesday afternoon with no fanfare whatsoever. It'll just show up there.
But to answer your actual question, no, I have not a chance to see Stan Lee yet, but you did. Did you actually see it in a actual theater?
I did not. So
okay.
I was covering the Tribeca Film Festival in New York this past week. I watched a whole bunch of different documentaries and features and things like that. That was one of the few that I watched at home. So I got the same experience that everybody else has had now watching it on Disney Plus. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I liked the way that your typical documentary, especially about someone who passed away a few years ago, you're gonna have a narrator of some sort or some sort of storyteller in some way. It's not. It's all Stan Lee voiceover or clips from interviews and things like that. So it's him telling his own story, which is really, really cool. And it's so comprehensive. Like they dive so deep into the creation of so many different characters, and you hear about so many different people that worked at Marvel. So really enjoyed it. It's a very the art style and everything and the music, it's all very like soft and relaxing. So it kind of just like lulls you in. Like it's entertaining, but it's also just very, very chill, I think is a good word to describe it. So I recommend checking that out. I enjoyed it a lot. Can be a little bit emotional too, of course, if you love Stan Lee, like so many of us do. All right.
I do want to say before we move on, all the game points is out too. Yeah, I saw the thing, Jack Kirby's son and grandson, because the grandson's the one that has the social media kind of issued a thing, pushing back and just not very happy about how, I guess, presumably little Jack was featured. I know this has been a thing for a while, but Disney did the same thing. So originally, when Stan was a Disney legend, Jack Kirby wasn't on the list and then got added, and the assumption was that Stan kind of asked for that. So I don't know what to think. I guess if you're building it off of past interviews and stuff, then it is kind of hard to go search for extra stuff to insert something into what he's saying. You could be like, oh, because it'd be weird to also just have like a different narrator suddenly pop in and be like, oh, and also Jack Kirby had a big influence. Right, so right. I get kind of the constraints they had, but I know that's something that's been going on for a long time, and it's unfortunate. But it's not. There's not an easy solution in my mind.
No, I totally agree. They do actually play a clip at one point of a radio interview between the two of them, kind of going back and forth at each other. And the radio host is kind of just like, I don't want this to be controversial or anything. I don't want to get into this. But so you do hear that they had a very contentious relationship. And so they touch on that a little bit. And not to dive too deep into it, but I saw the quote about from Jack Kirby's son and, not being happy with it. And he said at one point, are we to believe that Stan Lee had a hand in creating every Marvel character? And I think the way that he worded that, my response is, yeah, pretty much. Had a hand in creating, absolutely. At least for the time frame that he was in charge, more or less, of Marvel. He absolutely had a hand in creating every character. That's not to say that Jack Kirby didn't also have a hand in creating almost every character. So it's, I think it's a little bit nitpicky, I think, is my issue there. All right, let's jump into the Sony verse real quick because we have a whole lot of Sony related news. Obviously, we won't spend too much time on it. But first off, Marvel Spider-Man 2, last episode we talked about, they had just released the gameplay footage. It looks amazing. I can't wait. I'm probably going to drop way too much money on a PlayStation 5 just for this game. We now know it comes out on October 20th. So it is just a few months away. That happens to be the day before my wedding anniversary, so it could be a present between my wife and I to each other.
I mean, that's cute that you think it's actually going to be released on the date that they announced, but
usually if it's going to be delayed, they would have announced the delay by now as opposed to announcing the date. But you're right. Video games do tend to see delays quite a bit. But the game looks awesome. They also shared some details. I won't go into too much, but Eddie Brock is not going to be Venom. We know Venom is going to be a part of that game. We don't know who is in the symbiote, so I find that really interesting. The first game was incredible. The Miles Morales spin-off game was incredible. The stories are so good for both, so I'm expecting really, really great things out of this game. Also, probably the biggest Sony Spider-Verse news of the past week. Did you watch the trailer for Kraven?
No. Why would I do that?
Such a just genuine disgust.
I've
All right.
I've never seen Venom. I haven't seen either one of them. I haven't seen, what else is there? I don't know. I haven't seen them.
Morbius.
Morbius. Yeah, I haven't seen that.
I can tell you just based on the trailer for Craven, it's better than Morbius. That's a very low bar. Like you pretty much just have to try not to trip on the bar. But I watched the trailer for Craven. I'm torn. I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I wasn't, from hearing the casting of him as Craven a long time ago, I wasn't sold on it. And then I saw the movie Bullet Train, and he is fantastic in that movie. And we've seen him do a Russian accent before, he was Pietro, or, a Sokovian accent, whatever you want to call it. But it's just an American accent in this movie, and it's so out of place for the character. They do some weird stuff where they're giving him, yeah, exactly. All in the game's comment here. He is apparently getting heightened abilities from having basically an inadvertent blood transfusion with a lion.
Not a Detroit one?
Not a Detroit lion, no. I tried to come up with a lion. It's not Jared Goff blood that he's becoming a super villain with. No, so everything about the character just seems really out of place. That being said, the action does look really cool. And it does seem like it's going to be it's going to step up in terms of violence. So I think that fits with the character. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a shot. I say that, but I'll probably end up reviewing it for Laughing Place. So you might see that in the near future. I honestly don't have a date off the top of my head because I don't think anybody really cares all that much. So we'll move on.
Rest assured, it has a date, unlike a different Sony.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. So we'll just today we learned that El Muerto, the Bad Bunny led Spider-Man spin-off movie, has been pulled from Sony's schedule. Oh, darn. That is just heartbreaking news to so many of all of us. It's just, I can't. All right, moving on. 2 dates have been added to Sony's schedule specifically for Marvel movies. We don't know titles. We don't know characters, creative teams, anything like that. But November 8th, 2024, June 27th, 2025, 2 Sony Marvel movies. Potentially one of them is the next Spider-Man movie. We don't know. We haven't heard anything about that just yet. But we'll have a little bit of a wait. And I think given that, they haven't begun production or announced a title or anything for the next Spider-Man movie. Plus, I don't know if you saw this, but Tom Holland said he's going to take about a year off from acting after doing, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but
I thought he said it was like 8 months into a year off or something like that.
Well, I don't know about 8 months. He just wrapped up filming an Apple TV series that he said took a lot out of him. And when I say just wrapped, it might've been a few months ago, but so yeah, I think he's still going to be taking some time off. So I doubt at least the November 2024 date, I wouldn't say is a Spider-Man movie, but we'll see. Maybe that 2025 date. All right. Are you ready to get into our main attraction for this week's episode here?
Yes. Banners going up, people. So if you haven't watched the first episode yet, wait around for the games. Yeah.
For those of you listening to the audio, hopefully you've seen the first episode of Secret Invasion by now. If you're watching live, as long as this banner is up, we will be talking spoilers for the first episode of Secret Invasion, which premiered on Disney Plus today. Kyle, you know what? We have a topic to talk about here before we actually just get into our overall thoughts on the show itself. Let's talk about the title sequence that has been making a lot of news today.
Did you already hear my take on this during the morning show?
I did, okay. But I'm going to pretend I didn't so that it's all
That's
natural.
Fine. I just want to know. Yeah, I think this is overblown. So first of all, I know, so let me go through. People are upset because the title sequence they said that they used AI. And it seems the reason people are upset about this is because they're like, oh, well, you're taking away work from actual artists. Okay, fair. But my first thing is, well, these shows don't need to have title sequences. It could just say Secret Invasion and just have the names at the bottom of the screen during the first couple minutes like other shows do. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, yeah, in this case they are, but also there's also other, you don't need to go hire somebody to do this. Also, I do think people are like, oh, they're just saying that it fits the theme. I'm like, I think it does actually fit the theme. Like, I think because AI is such a big thing, I think there is commentary being made about it. Like, there's other shows on right now that I haven't seen all the way through, but Mrs. Davis seems to have some sort of AI component to it. Whether at least on in the story, we don't know about, or at least I don't know about the rest of it. So I do think that like the look of it, yeah, it looks uncanny, it looks weird, and so that kind of does fit the theme of the show. But then also like people are like, oh, well, it looks like crap. I'm like, well, isn't that a good thing? Wouldn't the worst case scenario be that they did use AI, it looks amazing, and they never said anything, so people lost work and they got away with it? Isn't the fact that they admitted it looks like crap, and if it's theme, like, is that not enough to be like, this is the best case scenario of what you would want for this sort of technology? Like, it's experimenting and it's pointing out the flaws of AI, but intentionally. Like I don't see this as some sort of like, game changing shift for like a reason to boycott the show. People are seeming to make it.
Yeah, I agree mostly with you. I mean, I totally get the point. Like they don't have to do the title sequence, so it's not like they're really cutting a job or anything like that. My only issues right now, well, a few issues here. One, I don't like the art style. I don't think it looks good. Like you, I think you agree with me. And I think a lot of us do. It just doesn't look very good. It looks like those cheap AI generators that you can just play with right now, and you type in whatever thing and you get that sort of distorted art.
I also, if I may interrupt for a second, I also do feel like the amount to which they used AI is probably overstated. There probably is still an artist like working on, like, I can't imagine that the AI is just generating that entire sequence. I feel like there's still somebody sequencing it and doing like maybe backgrounds or something like that to make it all coherent.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but and maybe AI is smart enough to just type in the prompt and it makes the entire thing. But I imagine that there's still some massaging.
Yeah, well, so, and you can find out some more details about this on Laughing Place right now, but there was a studio that was hired to basically handle the AI. So I guess they are still hiring somebody to do that, just not an artist. But then the director, Elise Salim, who said essentially they would come back with new text when they wanted to change up what the title sequence or a specific shot of the title sequence looked like. They would send them some new text and they would get back a new image. So I don't know what, the studio was doing, that with that text or how that was being completed. But my biggest point about this, though, I think is it's just the timing. It's the optics given the timing. With the writer's strike, there's a whole lot of talk about AI taking over artistic and creative jobs. So if this had happened, if this show came out last year, I don't think this would have blown back as big as it is right now. So I think that's one of the issues. And then, I mean, again, I don't think there's a reason to boycott this show. However, if we find out that Daredevil Born Again has an AI created title sequence, then I think we're starting to get into some issues. That's where I think it becomes a problem. And then I could see people being really upset about that. I don't expect that to happen. I think especially now, given the backlash about it, and also just the fact that it, doesn't really look very good, and the fact that it does fit with the theme of this show, like you said, how it's, it's created by no one, and you don't know. Everyone is basically faceless. You don't know who anyone is, so it kind of fits.
Well, I just mean like even the art style. I feel like the way that it looks like unsettling, and you're like, that's supposed to be a scroll, but it also looks weird. Like that's kind of the idea, is like that. Nothing looks quite right in this world because you don't know who to trust and stuff. So sure. I think that all of that fits. But like I'm saying, I think at the end of the day, it's like, well, if everyone can see that it looks like it's generated by AI, that's a good thing, because that means that AI is not as advanced as you all fear. It's not writing the script.
Right. I have some videos I have to show you, by the way. I keep coming across somebody reading scripts for movies written by AI. They are hilarious. We are years away from AI writing a movie. Let's just say that. All right, let's get into the show itself now. And what are your overall thoughts on this premiere episode?
I mean, it's about what I expected, I guess. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't have anything effusive to say in praise. I don't have any like downsides. Um, I like that it was a longer episode. Felt like the length that I was expecting, and obviously, yeah, there's so many answers. So I'm not getting wrapped up in theories and stuff like that. There's things that it's probably at this point probably a little bit more straightforward than I would have thought, and I have
Okay.
some
Yeah.
questions about, like we were talking about after we watched that 5 minutes. We're like, okay, how long?
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lost cause as far as coming up with theories, and you kind of just have to watch this show for what it is, like as it's happening, as opposed to trying to think ahead, because you really aren't going to know who's who as things are happening. So, yeah, I agree with you though. I didn't like this first episode didn't blow me away to the point where it's like my favorite episode on Disney Plus or anything like that, but I really liked it. It was much faster paced than I expected. We open up with that clip that we saw a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, when Marvel started doing those cryptic tweets and they send you the website where you have to enter the password. And so we got that like 5-minute clip, and that ends up being the opening of the episode.
I figured it would be. I didn't know if they'd cut any like little tiny bits out of it. And as far as I could tell, they didn't. But
yeah, it looks mostly the same, at least. But yeah, it kind of hits the ground running. Like you really don't. And at this point in the MCU, they expect you to know. Sometimes, though, you get a little bit of recap. You get every now and then you get Scott Lang kind of recapping what he's been through. But this one really is just, nope, you better have seen Captain Marvel and, several other movies with Nick Fury and a whole bunch of other projects, because if you haven't seen any of them, you are completely lost right from the beginning, and it's only going to start piling up on you. So they 100% anticipate this audience having seen everything already. That's for sure. The other, so fast paced was one thing. The other word that to me describes it is tense. I felt like the entire time, at any moment, I wouldn't have been shocked if one character just shot and killed another character. It felt like any of that could have fit. And then, either one of those, the killer or the victim, could have been revealed to be a Skrull at any point. So I think that's going to be the case. And actually, let me just go ahead and say this right now, so I kind of get this out of the way, that I'm trying to dance around some things. I have seen episode 2. I reviewed Secret Invasion for Laughing Place. You can check out our review right now. So I'm going to try and, stay away from anything that might tip you off to anything. But yeah, I really feel like this whole show is just going to be tense and, questions going unanswered constantly. One thing that's brought up several times throughout this episode is Saber, which is the kind of unclear, actually, what Saber actually is. It seems to be referred to as the space station where Nick Fury was, but also maybe as the organization that is operating out of that space station. So maybe it's both. Maybe they, the name of the organization and the space station are both Saber. It's a play off of Sword. Clearly, we've met Sword in WandaVision. Now it looks like they've taken the title of Saber, which we meet the president, President Ritson, I believe is his name, later on, and he refers to Saber as the most complex aerospace defense system in the history of mankind, or something along those lines. So really interested. Did you have any, were you questioning Saber at all?
No, not really. I was like, yeah, it's that space station thing that we saw him on at, I guess that's the end of, is that No Way Home? Or no, Far From Home?
Yeah. So yeah, we do see him at the end of Far From Home. We also see him in the trailer for the Marvels on that space station. So kind of a tip off that Nick Fury gets out of Secret Invasion alive, but that's always the case with MCU projects anyway. But yeah, so I thought it was interesting how much they're leaning into Saber, and we'll see what comes out of that. I do want to see, there's a character in the comics who runs Sword, and again, assuming Saber is that equivalent, Abigail Brand, who is an interesting character and has a lot to do in the Secret Invasion story arc and a whole bunch of others. Be interesting to see if we meet her in this series. All right, so that opening sequence that we get with Everett Ross, Agent Ross, who we've seen in both Black Panther films and Captain America Civil War, ends with him being revealed to be a Skrull. And, you know, at face value, that is just, okay, that's just how we're kicking off the show. A Skrull can be anybody. The big question, though, is how long has he been a Skrull? I mean, was it a Skrull that was helping Shuri and Okoye in Wakanda Forever? Was it a Skrull? Has the real Ross ever even been to Wakanda? Was it a Skrull that was interrogating Zemo? We have no idea how, like, if we've ever met the real Ross. So that's what the kind of the stakes of this series are going to be. It could really shake things up as far as the history of the MCU.
Slightly off topic, but in this scene, can I share a funny story?
Yeah.
when Maria Hill arrives and points her gun at what that point is, it just looks like some random Russian guy and is revealed to be Talos, right? Talos.
Yeah.
So I had a friend when I was in California as an extra. She was from Kazakhstan, and we asked her to teach us some phrases in Russian just for fun, and she chose very random ones. So the one that I remember is "Ruki ver," which means hands up, and that's not exactly what Maria says to the guy, but it's like it got like the same, part of speech. And so I thought that I got a kick out of that because I'm like, hey, I know what that means.
I was worried that story was going to end in you pointing a gun at your friend from Kazakhstan for a second there, but
nope. Just telling me hands up, and then like how to say don't shoot is like easy like here or something like that. I don't know.
Chose some weird phrases to teach you. I don't know what situations they thought you were going to get yourself into, but so we do see, obviously, Nick Fury, the centerpiece of this show. He returns to Earth for the first time since who knows when in the MCU. I guess after the blip. At this point, we don't know if he was at Tony Stark's funeral. Might have been Talos that was there. But so we see Nick Fury show up, and he's clearly not the same guy. He is walking with a limp. He looks older. He just doesn't seem as in command. He doesn't have that same swagger that Nick Fury usually does. So that's sort of the centerpiece of this show, right? Like you hear it from, I think, 3 or 4 different characters that he's not the same guy, that he's worn out. He's not ready for this fight. So it's really interesting to see a vulnerable Nick Fury. And to jump ahead a little bit, you see them playing chess, him playing chess with Maria Hill later on. And she asks him, "Are you going to move?" And he says, I'm thinking, or I'm not ready, or something like that. And she says, "That's the problem. The Nick Fury I knew was always 3 moves ahead." And I thought that was such a perfect way to capture what this character is right now.
Yeah, or the fact that he was able to get himself abducted, and it's like that's not a thing that should be able to happen.
Right. Now, I do kind of feel like this might all be like a rope-a-dope situation here. Like, Nick Fury might just be kind of playing possum, because it was his plan to get abducted. He wanted to go meet Fallsworth. But how much of it is he faking the limp? Is he going a full Kaiser Soze on us? But we'll see. I think it's too early, or I think it's probably a fool's errand to even try and theorize with this show at all. But I don't know. We'll see what we're really getting out of Nick Fury.
We should probably explain like what the war, we talked about the fight with Nick Fury, like what the main issue is.
Yeah, so like I said, the show assumes that you have seen Captain Marvel, so I guess I will too. But so the Skrulls were left on Earth for, what was that, 93 or something like that? So like 30 years without a planet to call home. And so they have been trying to hold Nick Fury accountable to, keep his promise and find them a home. And now there's kind of a splinter organization. Talos has been pushed off of the council, and there's another Skrull named Gravik who is leading a sort of revolution from the Skrulls, who they are basically going to fight to either get a new home or make Earth their home. And so that's the fact that they are shapeshifters. You don't know who's a Skrull and who's not. So that's the problem that Nick Fury is going to be trying to solve over the course of these 6 episodes. All in the Game asked thoughts on Skrulls now being able to access people's memories. Didn't we? I think there was an aspect of that in Captain Marvel. They were kind of going through people's memories and pulling information, extracting information. So I think we sort of saw the building blocks of where we are now with what they call the fracking pods, where they're throwing people into these machines and then literally just taking in their memories as well as their form, so making them even more formidable. So that's an interesting wrinkle to add in there. But I want to mention, I want to keep going down the line here. Nick Fury meets with Talos for the first time in person in a long time, and we learn very early that Soren, Talos' wife, who we've known from a few movies now, is dead. We know she was killed by this revolution group led by Gravik, but we don't know too many details about exactly how. I predicted, based on trailers and things like that, that she was going to be killed in this series. I didn't expect her to already be killed, because we knew that Gaia, who we'll talk about a little bit more, played by Emilia Clarke, is kind of walking on the fence. She's sitting on the fence on both sides here, because she wants Nick Fury to give the Skrulls their new home, but also doesn't like the violent ways that Gravik's group is going about it. So I expected.
Where have we seen this before?
Just about 7 or 8 different MCU films, probably, or projects in general, I guess.
Most specifically, I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that was the first one that came to mind for me too. Yeah, I think Civil War had some of that too. But yeah, there's actually pretty much every Captain America project at this point. But so we learned that Gravik is trying to he's been sort of orchestrating this war with different attacks, sort of posing with the Skrulls posing as human organizations and basically trying to orchestrate a whole war between everyone, specifically now targeting, posing as a group called Americans against Russia, trying to start a war between Russia and the US. We learned their whole evil plan about creating a dirty bomb, and that leads us down the plot of this episode. Gravik, I thought, was a really interesting character because he literally at one point lurks in the shadows. He's just a silhouette in a window at one point. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this character, this sort of menacing, lurking villain.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. And I'm kind of just thinking ahead to stuff we've seen in trailers, and I want to learn a lot more about this character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of questions about this character and the Skrull organization in general. Speaking of, changes for characters, Rhodey, we meet here working for the president, which I'm trying to remember. What was even the last thing we saw Rhodey doing? Was it just Tony's funeral? Was that the last time we saw Rhodey?
I guess.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he met with Sam, but that didn't give us a whole lot of information. But now he seems to be like the president's sort of right-hand man. I don't think we get a title for him, but pretty interesting.
Yeah. The name of Americans Against Russians was also written by AI. I don't know if
very possible. But yeah, so interesting development for Rhodey. Also, using some context clues here, I don't know that we can really trust the president all that much, because we do know Harrison Ford is going to be taking up the role of Thunderbolt Ross, and we know that Thunderbolt Ross is going to be president. So we'll see what happens with this President Ritson. I don't know if we can really trust him all that much. Another character we meet in this episode, Sonya Falsworth. I alluded to her earlier, but she is MI6 or was MI6 and has connections, something along those lines. But she is now hunting the Skrulls as well. And so you got Fury's group, which is him, Hill, and Talos, sort of racing against Falsworth and her, as Fury calls it, scorched earth policy. And Talos clearly has this mentality of he wants to prevent the most death as possible. And Fury is kind of pushing him like, you can't be showing mercy. That's what Gravik knows is your weakness. So that you have that dynamic playing too. And you get that kind of comes to a head in a fight scene later on that I thought was really, really well done. So that's, again, an interesting dynamic between those two characters. And I think Falsworth is going to play a good sort of counter to them. I guess sort of the catalyst for their relationship. And then again, I mentioned Gaia. You sort of get the strained relationship between Talos and Gaia. Gaia is Talos's daughter. She learns that her mother was killed by Gravik's organization. So that's going to be an interesting, although that one is moving a lot faster than I expected it to, because Gaia completely turns and tips off Talos as to their whole evil plan and gives them all the details. So
Kinda.
well, all the ones that she knows, at least, because she does say, this is where they're going to be. He knows you're coming. And when Talos asks how, she says, I don't know. We don't know how many operatives he has in the field. It's hundreds. So I thought that was really interesting, because the scale of this suddenly gets a lot bigger than, because they've been telling us for a long time, there's, maybe dozens of Skrulls left on Earth that they're trying to find a home for. It turns out it's a lot more, and they're well adjusted and into this into the society more than we expected. So I thought that was a really interesting moment, and again, interested to see the relationship between Gaia and Talos going forward.
Not to be confused with the Entertainer on the Galactic Star Cruiser, by the way.
Yes, I thought that was weird that they would go with that. I mean, Skrull names are just consonants and like an apostrophe thrown in somewhere, so they couldn't have gone with any other sounds to come up with there. There's one of the most famous comic book Skrull characters is Kul-Urt. It's KL''RT. So you could have just smashed a keyboard a little bit and that would have been the name, but I don't know. Interesting choice, especially given all the synergy with Disney parks and different projects and stuff like that. But one quick note I want to mention from that chess conversation between Hill and Fury. Fury says he came back because he owes Talos, and she mentions, "Are you sure you didn't also owe?" I don't know the exact quote, but you didn't also owe somebody else? And Fury is kind of taken aback. You kind of see it in his face, like Hill seems to know something that he didn't think she knew, or something along those lines. So that is an interesting plot point to throw in there too.
Yeah.
All right. What else? I want to get through this because I know we want to move on to our games. I liked there was an element of creepiness to this episode too, with this Fury sees a little girl on the street earlier in the episode, and then she shows up again and he follows her and then watches her transform into somebody else. And clearly, it's a Skrull. Turns out that actually was Gravik. I thought that whole, on top of the tension throughout the entire episode, adding that layer of creepy was a nice touch.
And something's up because she's like by far the brightest thing in the entire episode. Like that ball just like a spotlight.
yeah, it really stands out. So yeah, I really liked that, the way they handled that whole situation. Then we get to the big climax of this episode, which is that attack. Do
you like the inflatable nesting dolls everywhere, by the way?
Yeah, it was funny because I noticed them a few times in scenes leading up to that too, and I'm like, are they all in the same place, or are these things just all over Russia?
It's set in Russia. We have to have a giant nesting doll, inflatable. How else will people know?
So yeah, we get to the big climax of this episode, which is Gravik pulling off that attack and pinning it on the AAR, the Americans Against Russia. But the real big moment of this is Fury pulling out a gun and shooting and killing Maria Hill, which then you find out, of course, it's not Fury, it's Gravik posing as Fury. But in that moment, when that shot is fired, what did you think happened there?
Well, see, that's the thing. That's why I kind of wish that it would have ended there and made us wait for it a little bit. Because my immediate thought was, oh, did he realize that she was playing him? She's a Skrull. And then so that was just wait, we realized too quickly that wasn't the case. And it was the other option of it's real Maria, as far as we know. And the villain, not real Fury. But yeah, I thought that they could have teased that out for a bit longer and made you wonder which way it went.
Yeah, I agree. I think they kind of set themselves up in a bad way earlier when the Skrull that was Ross died, and then within seconds transformed back into a Skrull. So you kind of you have a very small window there. Although, you can write your way out of that pretty easily. But by the way, writing the recap for this, it's going to be really interesting on a weekly basis, because writing things like Fury shoots Hill and then not other Fury approaches not Fury, and so there's
a
going to be a
man
whole
who
lot
appears to be Nick Fury
yeah,
shoots what
exactly.
appears to be Maria Hill, who pulls out a very long camera shot and still has not turned green by the time it cuts.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So to those of you who do read my my weekly recaps of this show, I apologize and good luck. But yeah, so that's where this episode ends, with the apparent death of Maria Hill. I did not expect that. Like I said, this show moved a lot faster than I thought it was going to. Definitely didn't see them killing off a fairly major character in the first episode.
Oh, see, for me, it wasn't just that you see her dying. It was then the special guest star.
Yeah, right after that, too. I thought that was really weird. Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, twist the knife.
Yeah, so interesting ending, interesting start to this series. I'm hooked, as I expected to be. Again, I've seen the second episode already, so I still have to wait a long time for answers. So another 2 weeks before I get any explanations as to what's going on. But yeah, I'm excited to continue and talk about next week's episode with you too. All right, are we ready to? I'm going to go ahead and take the banner off now. So there you go. If you've just kind of weirdly had us muted and waiting for me to take that banner down, we are back now, and we are going to get into our games as soon as I find the right prompt. Here we go. How much is that cameo? All right, so we've got another round of How Much Is That Cameo, and joining us this week for the first time in a while, we've got Bekah.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
How's it going, Bekah?
That's pretty good. How are you doing?
Good, it's good. So I know you watch these episodes like we do super early in the morning when they drop on Wednesday. What did you think of Secret Invasion?
I liked it. I wasn't as hooked by it as I was hoping to be in the first episode, but I'm definitely interested in going back. I'm not ready to give up on the show.
Sure. Yeah, I would hope not. It was only 1 out of the 6 episodes.
Exactly.
All right. So you've been on the show, I don't even know how many times at this point. You know how much is that cameo works. Mm-hmm. Kyle, who do we have this week?
Let me play you this person's intro.
Hey, it's me, Dermot Mulroney. How's it going? I just joined Cameo because I wanted to let my fans know how much I appreciate you. Reach out if you want me to say Happy Mother's Day to your mom, or maybe your best friend's getting married. Or maybe you just know somebody who's a real big Scream 6 fan. Let me know. Looking forward to hearing from you.
So this was convenient because I went to Cameo, I typed in Marvel like I normally do, and then I go, wait a minute. Let me see if Dermot Mulroney is on here. And sure enough, he was. So in case people don't realize, he played the president that we spoke of on today's episode of Secret Invasion. But that's not important right now. What's important is, how much is that cameo?
I need to ask first, is this the first specific actor that you sought out on Cameo? Have you ever searched specifically for someone before?
For this game? No. I think this would be the first time.
So just Dermot Mulroney, and
because I've searched the Marvel tag so many times. So instead of doing that, I'm like, oh well, we got new show debut today. Let's see what new people in the MCU I can pull into this game, and that was the first one that came to mind, and it worked out.
First one was Dermot Mulroney. Okay, not Amelia Clark, but okay.
Well, you know what? There's a hierarchy, Mac. The Lindsay Lohan scale.
Okay, yes, we can put the Lohan.
Amelia Clark is currently off the scale and doing so well she doesn't need cameo.
That's probably a very good point.
Every once in a while, people are binging Friends and I wonder if that guy would make me a cameo.
Was he also in The Family Stone? Was that him?
Who would know?
I thought you would, Kyle, but
I've never seen that. I can picture the
poster.
It's the ring finger that was on the.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, no, I saw he was fine both times.
That's all I can picture is I'm sure the people listening to the podcast will be very confused. But yeah, that's all I remember was the poster for Family Stone, and that SJP is in it.
I know Dermot Mulroney most from New Girl, but all right. So that also doesn't help with a cameo price though. So This is tough because the Marvel role, but also Scream has blown up in a big way in recent years. So I'm gonna go $200.
That's what I was gonna do. Okay.
One time I don't ask if the guest wants to go first.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I will. Well, then I will go $300.
Okay.
All right. Well, then today's winner is Mac, because That Cameo is only $100.
Wow. Okay. All
I
right.
was gonna go lower, and then I thought, no.
My recommendation was going to be for you to go 201, and that still wouldn't have worked out. So
Still, no, not this time.
all right. So
before we get to our game, I have a bit of breaking news that we can talk about. We were wondering, because our coworker Mike Celestino has been in DCA all day waiting for something to happen, and they had like a little thing set up that was clearly inspired by Secret Invasion. But today we learned Nick Fury has just come out to make his first appearance in Avengers Campus. So we have a teaser image that Disney shared. We also, Mike saw him, so he's got some a little video and some more photos, but we'll have more coverage of that over on Laughing Place. But that's pretty cool. We wondered whether it was going to be Nick or Maria, and they went with Nick. So could have gone both, but I guess they went with Nick. It looks pretty cool.
It looks cool, but also it's June. It's the first day of summer, and he's wearing a knit cap and a long black trench coat.
And
he looks awesome, but my goodness, it's got to be uncomfortable.
I honestly was getting to the point where I was half expecting him to just send out anyone in like a shield costume and just say like, "Oh, it's a Skrull." That was a possibility. Like this could have been the meet and greet.
This week's Skrull.
Yes, I like that.
All right, are we ready to jump into our draft?
I think so. This is as I more and more come to mind as we.
It's exactly when you want to be putting your list together.
Yes.
What if I told you we were putting a team together? Assemble.
All right, so we are going to be drafting, not inspired by anything in particular, the most memorable MCU deaths, MCU character deaths. Let's specify that. Couple housekeeping notes here. One, we are not going to be drafting anything from this week's Secret Invasion. We are not going to be spoiling that episode anymore. Also, another thing we won't be spoiling, because 2/3 of us have not yet seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So if you're listening to this, yes, I would have made that pick. I cannot do it, though, to spare Kyle and
I'm sorry.
That's all right. At this point, it'll be on Disney Plus soon, I'm sure. All right. So, Bekah, you know how this works.
And also, sorry to interject, the death doesn't have to stick.
Oh, true. Yes.
And
also,
the blip doesn't count.
Yeah, blips do not count. So Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Star-Lord, those are off the board. So yes, kind of a lot of rules to this one, more than I thought when we initially pitched it. But Bekah, you know how this works. Do you want to pick first, second, or third?
I'll go second.
Second, okay. So Kyle, I believe that gives me the first pick.
I think that sounds correct.
Okay, so I am actually pretty happy with that, Bekah. So thank you, because I think the obvious choice for this one is going to be Tony Stark. That's going to be the most memorable MCU death to me. Probably, I can't think of one. I guess there is some competition for it, but to me, it would be the most emotional scene of any of these that could be drafted here today. So that's going to be the first pick there.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Yondu.
Yondu. Okay, that's a good one. That was high on my list too.
I had Yondu on my list, and if I could, I was going to just take all of the Ravagers, because that would
from the whole
come a little bit closer.
Scene.
Yeah.
That's sure. Yeah, memorable for different reasons.
No, but you'd have to choose a specific person. So I'm not gonna get that.
That's
Taser
fair.
is the only one I know.
Yeah. But yeah, Yondu is a good pick, and I think technically we're drafting death scenes, but then you are gonna get just by proxy the whole Ravager funeral at the end with the fireworks and everything. So smart pick.
Yeah, although you get that beautiful, touching funeral from Endgame. So
all right, Kyle, we're to you now with back-to-back picks.
Well, what's funny is I have all these like twisty picks and interesting picks, but I also have some heavy hitters. So I'm going to take the heavy hitters first.
Probably a good call.
I'm going to take Agent Coulson.
Okay. Yeah.
In my mind, he's still dead.
And
MCU.
yeah.
And then I'm going to take Natasha.
Yeah. I was hoping that would come back to me, but didn't really have high hopes. And also, didn't really want to double up on Avengers Endgame anyway, so probably good. Thank you for taking that. But yeah, that is maybe actually my favorite. It's kind of weird to say my favorite death scene, I think, but that
leads to my favorite quote in the MCU.
That's true. Do you want to do it right now?
You grab your hammer, you go fly, and you talk to him.
So yeah, that whole sequence with her and Hawkeye, though, I think is one of my favorite parts of that movie. So yeah, Black Widow, obviously one of the stronger choices, and then Agent Coulson. Coulson didn't come to mind right away for me. I didn't really think about him, and then as I was
is responsible for forming the Avengers.
Yeah,
he solidified them and made them a team. So yeah, very pivotal person in the MCU.
Which also led to one of the most disturbing moments in Avengers for me, because you may remember Nick Fury throws down some bloody trading cards on the table, and Maria Hill says, those weren't in Coulson's jacket. They were in his locker. So he went and dipped those in Coulson's blood, and then
it could have been ketchup. Nobody did a DNA test on them.
I guess there was also just a lot of blood all around the helicarrier at that point too. So
that's true. Just dip them anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. This looks like.
Yeah. We'll stop getting super disturbing, and we'll move on to Bekah's second pick.
I'm gonna take Quicksilver from Age of Ultron.
Yeah, that was the first name I wrote down.
Oh, really? That was another one that didn't come to mind right away for me, but then I it was one that I thought of it.
Coming?
Oh yeah, it should have been near the top of my list.
It was only when you saw the trailer for Kraven the Hunter that you thought.
Well, that's what I'm so far removed from that being Quicksilver at this point.
Yes.
Ralph Boner, I think, is the first one that comes to mind. Okay, back to me. I have Tony Stark. A lot of the top of my list has been taken out, but the only other competition left for the most emotional death scene to me, I think, came much more recently, and that is Aunt May in Spider-Man No Way Home.
A late addition to my list, honestly.
Really? That was one of the first ones that came to mind for me.
Because I'm like, oh well, it is MCU. It was only when I was talking to Bekah, she's like, so we have to take actual, like, we can't just be like, oh well, because Toby's in the MCU now, I can't, like, you can't take you can't take Uncle Ben, but you can take Aunt May. And I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, I did just watch that movie recently too, so that was why it was fresh. Also, just the way she says the line, she said the thing, and so you kind of just know in that moment, it's like, oh no, this is not going to end well for her, and then it's just incredibly emotional from that point on. So yeah, definitely a memorable scene. And then I'm going to go down the Kyle road here and pick one that's very memorable for a different reason, because I still have that sloshing sound in my head. I'm going to take Black Bolt from Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of
Madness. that was going to be my next pick, because I was like, oh, yes.
Just one of the most disturbing scenes in a movie ever. Just the way that happened. It's the stuff of nightmares. So yeah, that, again, we're drafting memorable here, and that one is stuck with me for better or worse for the rest of my life.
For sure. That was my Janice impression.
I gathered that. Well, let's see. Wow, that I still have plenty on my list, but can I take Anthony, the little ant from
Yes,
You
yes, you
can.
absolutely can.
I know him because of the name. No, I will stick with it with a character that we spend a little more time with. I'm gonna go with Gamora.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was wondering how soon after Black Widow, and actually it's interesting because Gamora's came first, and then Black Widow dies the exact same way.
Yeah.
But I do think the Black Widow scene is more powerful. So I was just curious to see how soon after Gamora would get picked. But yeah, definitely deserves to be picked in this draft. Kyle, back-to-back picks again to round out your draft here.
I think, this is getting a little bit harder. I'm going to take Loki, specifically the time when he says no more coming back, whatever Thanos says to
No
him.
resurrections this time.
No resurrections this time.
Yeah.
Yes. Taking that Loki death.
Okay, I'm glad you made the right Loki death pick.
Thank you. And then for my last one, I'm gonna, I had this on the list along with Black Bolt. I'm gonna take Professor X for the same reason.
Oh, I had that entire team on my list. So that was honestly like I had like Tony Stark, Black Widow, Aunt May, and then just the Illuminati one at a time there. So yeah, Professor X. Also, that one in particular was horrifying. It went full horror movie for about 30 seconds there. And that's a good one. All right, Bekah, your last pick now.
So since we're sticking with the horror and images we can't get out of our head, I think I'm going to take Vision.
Okay. Okay. So wait, which
at
one?
the end, the moment that kills him,
when he takes the Mind Stone out.
Infinity War. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yes, Infinity War.
That's a good one. I didn't have that on my list actually, but that is a really good one.
I had both Vision and Fake Vision on my list because his quote unquote death in WandaVision I thought was really emotional as well. So,
but no, I'm going for that creepy level.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty disturbing moment, especially just the way it happened with Wanda having had saved him moments before.
Yes.
So, okay, yeah, Vision rounds out your team there. And now I have one more pick. I don't want to go with another member of the Illuminati, though they would be next on my list. I'm going to go with one that I think really caught everyone off guard because it happened in the first 5 minutes of a movie. And it was Thanos in Avengers Endgame getting his head cut off by Thor. So
that's a good one. Yeah, didn't think about that. I will say there was a lot. I was like, oh yeah, villains die sometimes too.
Right? Yeah. I did have MODOK on my list too, and I considered that.
Bekah was debating whether she's like, so wait, if I have to pick that, would that be MODOK or is that Darren Cross? I'm like, well, I think if it's you want the one in Quantumania, I think you want to say MODOK.
Yeah, I think we could have drafted either one, but MODOK I think was probably the right pick.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that Thanos one to me, I just remember the theater, like the air being sucked out of the theater. Like, what just happened? Like the movie just ended in 10 minutes. I'm so confused. So yeah, that was memorable for me for sure. Did you guys have any others left on your list?
I do. Yeah. Do you want to go first, Bekah?
No, it's okay, Kyle.
Oh, I have Sparky.
Oh, Sparky's a good one.
Heimdall.
Yeah.
Jane.
Oh yes.
Jane Foster. T'Challa, and then Peter's mom and Ego.
Okay. Yeah. I thought of Peter's mom. I didn't put Ego on there just because, to be honest, I don't really remember what his final seconds were like. So, Bekah, what else did you have?
I had adult Groot because that was
I had Groot.
Sacrifice there. I was trying to think Civil War, Maria Stark, even though you don't actually see Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And,
Tony's parents would have been a good one too, now that you mentioned.
Yeah. And then Queen Ramonda, because that was So,
I had Queen Ramonda. I had Dr. Erskine, sort of the one that started the whole thing pretty much.
Yes.
Did we say Frigga and or Odin? I had both of them on my list as well. And then Peggy Carter also, because she's another one that got the whole big funeral. So that was another one that stood out to me. Real quick, I want to ask you too, do you have any that stand out in your memory from other movies or TV? Like, has any other death scene stuck with you?
Well,
As far as Marvel?
No, just any other
just anything.
anything. Yeah.
Game of Thrones. No.
Well, yeah,
anything
first one
anything
for
in
me.
Game of Thrones. No, Doc Ock in the
In Spider-Man
second-
2.
Yeah, Spider-Man
Yeah.
2. I don't know, Kyle. What about you?
I mean, I'm sure I do. Nothing's really coming.
Nothing coming to mind. Yeah.
Nothing coming to mind at the moment.
I
like,
was a
go ahead.
distraught 10-year-old when Yoda,
Okay.
became one with the Force.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a few Star Wars ones you could throw in there for sure. Yeah, no, you mentioned Game of Thrones. Oberyn Martell for me was the one, Pedro Pascal's character.
I couldn't watch it. I let it play, but I would not look.
Yeah, that was a brutal one. Glenn from The Walking Dead was another one that stands out to me. And then it didn't stick, but Hopper in Stranger Things is another one that was incredibly emotional. So,
and now I'm thinking of Eddie. Is that his name? I can't.
Eddie,
remember.
yeah. We may or may not be in the middle of a rewatch of Stranger Things right now, so it's fresh in my mind. But Bekah, thank you so much for joining us.
Run through our teams again, real quick.
Oh yeah, you're right. Let me run through our final teams here. So I got Tony Stark, Aunt May, Black Bolt, and Thanos. Bekah has Yondu, Quicksilver, Gamora, and Vision. Kyle has Agent Coulson, Black Widow, Loki, and Professor X. So I honestly, this is going to be such a hard one to choose a winner for. So it'll be really interesting to see which way people go. I think Kyle, you probably took Doobie's vote because you got Black Widow. So
that's true.
That's on there. I should have just drafted Doorman. He wouldn't have.
Doorman might have died. We don't know.
We should have picked any Skrull, because any character who died at any point may have been a Skrull.
That's true.
You mean it? They could have.
This week's Skrull.
Or any week's Skrull at that point. But again, Bekah, thank you so much for joining us again, and we'll definitely have you back to play these ridiculous games.
Well, thanks, guys. It's been fun.
We got however many episodes to fill.
Yes. We'll see ya.
Bye. All right. So that is going to do it. Yeah, we did. That is going to do it for another episode of the Zzzax of Life podcast, Zzzax of Live podcast. Sorry. We will be back next week. Kyle, we've made it. We've made it through the long break between Marvel shows, and now we have 6 weeks of weekly episodes once again.
Maybe we'll even keep the same schedule and not panic on the day up the next time.
That was going to be my my next point, was hopefully we have a normal schedule for these 6 weeks. Who knows? But again, we have Comic-Con coming up in about 6 weeks or less than 6 weeks. So
yeah,
who knows what that's going to be like. But
I'm also going to Gen Con in August.
I don't know what that is.
It's a convention for tabletop gaming, which I am terribly into.
Well, then maybe they have the new Marvel D&D type thing.
Maybe they'll have the community board game. You stupid child.
All right. So as always, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Zzzax of Life Pod so you can vote for who you think won this draft. Be sure to check out laughingplace.com for all your latest Marvel and Disney news in general. Do we have anything else, Kyle? Other than the fact that we'll be back next week?
We will be back next week. Same bat time. Oh, wait, wrong studio.
All right. Bye, everyone.